but just to get a little more out of taste, there was an episode called Message in a Bottle with Andy Dick. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And Andy played the successor to my program, the EMH Mark II. And we're forced to kind of work together in this episode, where I've been emailed to the Delta Quadrant. And I am bragging to Andy about certain things that I could do that he couldn't do. And I have this portable hollow emitter, so I can go all over the deck. And I say I fraternize with the crew, and I even had sexual relations. So I read this line when we're a week ahead of shooting it. I read the line and I call the producer. I said, "Excuse me," I said, "I had sexual relations?" He said, "Yeah, apparently." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. The audience saw me activated for the first time in the pilot, and then they've been kind of living with me every week ever since then. How did I miss this? How did I win today?" And I said, "And why would I even? I said, if you're making an emergency medical hologram, why would you give him one of those? What kind of emergency medical procedures are we doing? What?
Why would you make him fully functional?
What kind of emergency medical procedures are we thinking about?" So because I didn't get an answer, and like any good actor, I wanted a backstory, I wrote my own. It was about the time I decided to write the Hologram's Handbook, because every Star Trek actor has to write a book. I mean, William Shatner writes books, except somebody else writes them for him and he puts his name on it. I didn't know that, so I went and wrote my own book. It's very thin. I wrote it myself, it's very thin. 4 trips to the bathroom, you're done. All right? But I thought that I would read you how the doctor got his anatomical upgrade. Okay? And by the way, I have done my own audiobook of my book, The Hologram's Handbook. It is on the autograph table, and part of the proceeds go to the Pediatric AIDS Foundation. All of the CDs I produce, part of the money goes to this charity for, I don't know, probably 15 years. So anyway, here is the doctor describing his anatomical correctness upgrade. To use my own experience as an example, I was supposed to petition my captain for this and any other new systems upgrade. The delicate nature of this particular request did not deter me. I proposed countless scenarios to her in which the benefits that I would derive from first-hand intimate experience would prove invaluable to my understanding and treatment of future patients, particularly their sexual disorders. Captain Janeway seemed quite convinced after scenario number 26. And felt that hearing the remaining 187 wasn't necessary for her to make a decision. Permission was granted, and Lieutenant Torres was assigned to implement the upgrade. I offered a few suggestions, and was a little miffed to find that B'Elanna, who had recently begun dating Tom Paris, had her own modest design parameters firmly in mind. Having prided myself in my unique individuality, I was understandably reluctant to be assigned my newest feature without regard for my opinion and taste. Nonetheless, I was relatively satisfied with the outcome, and the first dozen or so tests on the holodeck that afternoon proved successful. I might also add that the complete control over my program protocols, which Captain Janeway entrusted to me several years ago, extends quite logically to all of my appearance parameters, even those not normally in evidence. B'Elanna's lack of regard for my suggestions is now a distant memory, as I have suggested and approved several upgrades to myself in the interim. Those are far more carefully disguised penis jokes.
So, you mentioned the Stargate, how it got put on the back burner and then it got put off. We're kind of in a crisis right now when it comes to sci-fi. There's no spaceships on TV right now. We got big screen Star Trek, but I mean, really, D was the last ship we saw on TV. Do you think it's just a lull? Does it need more fan involvement to get it going again, or is it just ebb and flow? It's going to come around again?
It's a great question. I think part of it is that the Sci-Fi Channel is actively distancing themselves from space shows you know, they don't, that's not what they want to do. Ever since they rebranded themselves as sci-fi, as IFY, they seem to be trying to get away from, you know, what they set out to do originally. You know, I mean, I think SG1 really made the Sci-Fi Channel a success. I think they got their highest ratings from them. And now, sort of post-Battlestar Galactica, they seem to, it's like, well, we've done, you know, we've done the hippest, coolest, most awarded space show, so now we're moving on and doing other things. So I think that's part of it, that it just seems to be, they don't seem to be interested, and that was one of the major avenues for it. But I do think the pendulum will swing back. I think that after they made the next J.J. Abrams directed, you know, Star Trek movie, which they're shooting now, I think that it's entirely possible they'll try to launch another Star Trek series, like, you know, in about 2 years. I assume they'll just do what they did in the movie and then just have a new timeline and not necessarily reference any of the other shows. It makes sense if they can stick with, you know, the reboot, but I have no idea. And as I said, Atlantis, I think if MGM got a cash infusion, I think it would be wise to try to keep the brand name of Stargate alive, because that was that's a very successful property for them. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, of a new show, I know there's an online thing that called the classic 50s series Space Patrol, that some friends of mine are raising money for, and they're going to start making webisodes with really state-of-the-art visual effects, and that will have plenty of spaceships in it. And I will, no doubt, be in at least one episode of that, along with other actors you know, because Martin Siegfried, the creator, has contacted us and raised money online. He set out to raise $75,000 to make a pilot webisode, and he's already made $100,000 in half of his time online to raise, you know, Kickstarter, the thing where you can raise, people get producer credits and stuff like that. They get different things if they invest a certain amount of money. So there will at least be one new space show on the internet. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of, as much as I like a lot of the shows on the Sci-Fi Channel, I think that they've cut off a major part of what science fiction is by staying out of space and out of the future.
Cutting out the audience that made it popular in the first place.
And cutting out the audience, exactly. So what are you going to do? Write them a letter.
I probably do nothing.